and this little person pulled out in front of me on an old country road, and the cake hit the windshield.
Always the wedding cake, you guys. It's never been that bad, though. That's the worst.
Always, yeah.
Welcome to Fantasy Baking Championship, y'all.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should start by saying, welcoming Geoff Blount from season 6 of Holiday Baking Championship to our podcast.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
We're all blushing a little bit.
Yeah, obviously this is, I spoke to you earlier today. It's a huge, it's a huge thing for us to have you on the show. We're so excited. It's a great treat for us to get to talk to any of you guys. And it's interesting because you're our first contestant that we're talking to while the show is happening.
While the show's going on.
While you're
say nothing.
I'm still here.
That's right. No spoilers.
Right.
We can cut it out for our audience, but we can't cut it out of our brains.
That's right. Well, so that we don't keep you on here all night, because we absolutely would if you let us. We'll run down. We have some questions obviously prepared.
Okay.
Some are about the show and some are just sort of about you. And I thought one of the interesting things I think it's interesting that you talk about that you have a theater background. I'd be curious to know, like, what is your baker origin story? Like, how did you become? What took you in that direction in a profession?
Radioactive spider.
Yeah. The quick short of it is I was working in theater and doing prop and design and building sets for some different shows. When you're in the industry and you're building sets, sometimes you take whatever work you can during the off season. And we were building sets for like the Belk stores and doing like clothing shows and this, that, and the other. And you were building sets for Levi's, Wrangler, whoever, for their trade shows.
Yeah.
And the guy laid us off, and I went on Thanksgiving break, and took the money and just kind of went and hung out. Knew I needed a job. My wife and I at the time were dating. I went and got a job at a Daryl's in Charlotte, like waiting tables and hosting. Made my way back in the kitchen after week 2. After about 2 months, I ended up at culinary school. And then halfway through culinary school, I fell in love with baking. And then from there, it just took off. And every time, granted, my family, my mom was decorating cakes. My grandfather was a butcher, but it was never an industry that I wanted to go into.
Yeah.
I always worked with my hands and did stuff back of the house. And I love the planning and the organizing and everything. And pastries really kind of fell in my lap because I'm that blueprint type of person where I like to plan everything out and there's a list. And that's the pastry world. That is not culinary, hot food, savory. That does not happen.
Right.
You can make those adjustments on the fly. With baking and pastry, it's a little more difficult. You have to have kind of a game plan and where you're going at it. So, and that's kind of how I got into it. And that was over 25 years ago.
Wow.
So,
that's why it blows me away with you guys, like because this is what we hear from every baker, that everything's so specific.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's down to the percent.
Yeah, there's grams.
It's crazy,
but it's so left brain and so right brained, right? Or right brain and left brain, right? Because there's also such artistry to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Person who makes nests on their desserts.
I'm gonna start calling you Birdman.
Let's just make a nest.
We have to show you. We got to show you some of the text messages we've sent each other watching. When you did the nest, I think we were like, "What the hell is he? Are you kidding me, Geoff?" Geoff, it just seems like you would just take the mic and drop it and pick it up and drop it and pick it. Like, we get it, Geoff.
The bakers use it. So we really, to be quite honest, we don't even get. All these episodes are probably the first time that a lot of us actually get to see each other's final heat work.
Oh.
I will say this. Now, I can only speak for myself. I have a chance to maybe see left and right of me, kitchen, or maybe at front of me. But for you to look around the kitchen and see everybody's work, you don't see it, especially in the final heat. preheat, you can see everybody's stuff because we're all looking over there going, "Who's that? Is that yours?"
Right.
And it's like, "Oh my God, you're next."
Right.
Because it's like, "Who's next?" And it's like, "Oh." And then there's timing in our head. There's timing. When you put your stuff up, you don't know if you're first, second, third, whatever. They don't give you an order. It just goes. And
Jeez.
so hopefully it's still standing, or
right.
hopefully it's still warm or cold, or so on and so forth. So
I haven't even thought about that. Like,
I know, right.
if you're going up last, and it's like, is my thing gonna like harden? What the hell do I know what I'm talking about? But it's like, is it gonna change the
trust
taste
me,
if it's
in your head you're thinking, well, what if I go last?
right?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And so are you guys all just like hanging out in a green room together, like biting your nails, or while you're waiting to go
no,
up?
we're typically right off stage, and then of course they clean up a little bit. I mean, there's some kitchens that are pretty messy.
Wow. Yeah. Sure.
Mine excluded. Not mine. That would be bad for me to have a dirty kitchen in front of my students. I'd be like, "Chef, you can't bust us for having a dirty kitchen. Look at yours."
Right.
So I'm really meticulous on the show about how clean my kitchen is and how organized everything is. So, but so yeah, we walk off stage and then we kind of give each other a hug, and some of us are, go into the bathroom and cry. I don't think she actually did that. I mean, I really don't think she went into the bathroom to cry.
I think Chris almost did, though.
I know.
Just give each other a big hug and say it's going to be all right. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We Janet posted a photo of like a bunch of you guys doing a puzzle. Was it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So on day 2, I went to the Target near our hotel and I bought 2 puzzles because I was like, I'm gonna have to keep these people busy. And more importantly, it was to keep their minds from freaking out.
Sure.
Yeah, that's so cool.
I got dubbed as Papa Bear
Oh.
as part of I was like the elder, I guess. Well, as far as the dad figure or whatever. So,
Yeah.
I wanted to do what I could to keep them
Distracted while you sabotage.
I wouldn't say that, but I will say this. Sometimes there's a little too much of this. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't focus.
Yeah.
Here's a puzzle.
Just like throw a puzzle box at them.
So we know you're a teacher.
Yes.
And we wanted to ask you, what made you decide to teach, and how do you feel like it's changed you as a baker?
So I took over when I went to culinary school, I went to a technical college in Charlotte, North Carolina called Central Piedmont Community College. And George Schmerin was my teacher there in baking. We called him the Dean of Dough. And he had been there for decades. And he retired. And he then told the president of the college to call me.
Oh, wow.
And the first time he called me, I was starting my own business called Sugar Buzz. And so they kept him on as an adjunct for a little while, I guess. And and then the second time they called me, I had just closed the doors on my bakery after a 5-year run because we were having kids.
Right.
And I said yes. And I remember the president of the college, Dr. Zeiss, telling me, it'll be the most enjoyable job that I'll never pay you that much to do. You'll really love it. And
that's a hard sell.
Yeah.
And he was right. So I went back to my own alma mater and started teaching at Central Piedmont Community College in 2007. And I loved it. I didn't know how to slow down. A 37.5 to 45-hour work week's not in my vocabulary. I still work 50 to 60 hours a week. But I slow down when I need to for my kids.
Right.
Going to football games or lacrosse games or archery with my daughter, whatever, is very, very important. But it's allowed me to, when you have to teach someone, you get better at the craft because you have to delve even deeper into the craft to be the expert at it.
Right.
It's difficult to I think for people that have never taught before to understand, but I think once you have to teach and you're standing in front of everybody and you're like, all these people depend on me to show them how to spin sugar or make chocolate ganache or whatever.
Yeah.
And so automatically you're put on a pedestal, so to speak, but more importantly, you're the person that is the person with all the knowledge.
Yeah.
And you want to convey that as well as possible. So I will find myself still to this day on the night before baking one, which is like, here's how to make chocolate chip cookies and brownies. And I'm still looking in my book and just looking over my notes for things that I've highlighted because I want to make sure I don't miss those when I'm talking to the students, because I think eventually after a couple decades, you take the creaming method for making cookies properly for granted.
Yeah.
When I look at sugar rates and how much sugar for water for a super saturated solution or this, that, and the other, I don't even think about it. You have to remind yourself before you go in.
I guess it's like playing checkers versus chess. I mean, I feel like you obviously have to know all the angles. You see they're coming in one way and you need to be able to do 360 all around it. Yeah.
Right. And these are adults. They've paid for their education and they expect to get a good education. So you make sure you've got the best facilities and that you have all the supplies out and that you're professional and organized and that everybody plays well in the sandbox. So, I mean, it's really, really important. And it's changed my methodology of baking and my preparedness, how I get prepared for a class definitely reflects how I prepare to bake now. As on my drive home, I'm already thinking about tomorrow's lesson plan and how can I shave 2 minutes off of lecture next year to give us 2 more minutes of time in the box.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you can lecture online.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Lecturing in a classroom when you've got a KitchenAid in front of you is boring. I got a KitchenAid. Let me put some butter and some sugar in it. Turn it on.
Yeah.
It's a little bit easier that way.
So this brings me to this question. Like, now let's talk about this holiday baking championship thing. With, you're teaching all these students. You have to adjust when you find out you're offered the show. You say, I'm going to go on the show. I assume I'm just curious about your preparation from going from what you do every day, your day to day, your 70-hour work weeks, to go, time to be a celebrity. I'm going to go and do some bird nest and some
compete too. It's
some
like
sugar pulling.
You're giving so much as a teacher, and then all of a sudden you're in like a competition kind of mode.
Right.
I would
so
think.
I do teach 10 months out of the year.
Wow.
So I'm off for 2 months. So I will say that the casting director was pretty sneaky. He's like, "What are you doing in this?" And I went, "Nothing. Why?" And I was like, "Oh man, I just left the door." I can't even say I'm busy doing such and such.
Yeah, right.
So because I had said no quite a few times prior. So
yeah.
And so then when I said yes and the whole process started going, so oddly enough, my daughter has a super addiction to another baking show from across the pond. And she loves watching it on her iPad. So I quickly asked her when I finally found out that I was going to be on the show, I said, "Zoe, would you do homework with me?" So we would literally binge watch 3 or 4 episodes at a time.
Yeah.
And we sat there with a piece of paper and we took notes.
Wow.
And when I say notes, I mean like, nope, rum. No, she likes bourbon more. Ginger. How much ginger? Citrus. It was so funny that you talked about the citrus thing on the last podcast. I actually had citrus but not lemon. She likes orange but not lemon. I've got probably 2 notebooks full of stuff.
Yeah.
Which also then presented the question, what could they possibly throw at us? You got 5 seasons worth of stuff. So we literally wrote down every single preheat, every twist, we wrote everything down.
Wow.
I studied for about 5 weeks solid before we did filming, and probably like nobody else probably ever would or ever had. I crammed for the exam. So
yes, you sure did. You're like, I'm saying yes this time. I am gonna.
If I'm gonna say yes,
Also,
if I'm gonna say yes, I'm not gonna embarrass myself.
That's right. I wouldn't say 5 weeks is cramming either.
No, that's like training. That's
it was roughly a week per season.
Yeah.
So
that's like walking into this competition with like your head filled with like an encyclopedia of this show. There's got to be a thing in the back of your head going like, but there is that unpredictable aspect of like, you just don't know what they're going to ask you to do. So
right.
Are you able to like set that aside and go, I'm focused with what I might think they might throw at me. And then,
so I get made fun of a lot right now by my culinary students and my pastry students because they always joke about the fact that I do not run to the ingredients.
Sure. Yep.
Because first off, if I'm running, someone's chasing me. So I'm a big boy.
We're gonna get that printed on a mug for you.
Yeah. So the way I look at it is whatever ingredient is left up there, I'm gonna take it and run with it. And before Jesse's probably saying your time starts, before he says now, I pretty much already have a plan. Wow. It's done. It is formulated in my head. Because you have to, I mean, there might be a few little things, maybe a couple flavors here and there, but it's like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And so then you get to the kitchen and I've got about another 45 seconds in my head. So if you really think about it, that's about a total of 5 minutes. I mean, everybody realizes that when you watch a 45-minute episode on Food Network, it says it has us 2 hours. So obviously time is a little, Jesse does a little bit more explaining before he says go. So, so you've got maybe 2 minutes to think in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just ask this? I'm sorry. I'm just wondering, like, so this is really fascinating that you're like, and now I'm excited to watch on Monday when it's time to run, and we're like, he ain't moving at all.
And also see like the wheels turning in his head. Like,
so what's the strategy there?
That's an extra 30 seconds if I saunter up there. I mean,
do you look at like when you're there and you go, okay, well, I'm going to get whatever's last. Do you kind of strategize and go, are you looking for the least desirable ingredient in your head that you think no one's going to?
To be quite honest, it's literally whatever's left.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it's just whatever's left. The Kranza cake is a perfect example.
You weren't really dying to get white chocolate and pomegranate?
Well, no, I wasn't given white chocolate. I was given pomegranate.
Oh, because that was my favorite because it was like, Kranza cakes are terrible.
Yeah.
So I'm just not doing that. And they're just going to love it anyway. Yeah. And that's the direction we're going.
Screw it. I'm not doing it.
And I'm just not going to even pull back. I was so enamored with you. The second that happened, I was like, please let him keep going because I love that approach.
Geoff was having a blast with that one.
It's like the Jedi mind trick.
Also because every other baker was like, I hate this. This is so, I guess we have to. And you're like, nope.
But if you paid attention, they all said they had never made them before.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I was the only one that had made it before. And I literally went, no, I'm not making that. I remember making that and that was nasty.
JT can agree with
marzipan, cookie, crunchy. So here's the thing. What are you going to do with pomegranate? Yeah. How do you impart pomegranate into something that's supposed to be dry? And of course, you got pomegranate 3 ways. You got pomegranate molasses, pomegranate seeds out of the fruit, and then pomegranate juice.
Yeah.
So quickly, right off the bat, I looked at it and just went, I need a vessel to put pomegranate mousse or curd inside of. I'm looking at the mold on the table going, those are individual tarts. I just need to seal the bottom.
Right.
White chocolate it is.
Dang.
And so white chocolate, because white chocolate is super sweet and pomegranate is like pucker.
Right.
So, and it was literally by the time I got back to my station, I was already like, yep, I'm doing tarts.
Dang. Also, pomegranate, not really like I feel like we felt like pomegranate, not really a holiday flavor. Like that was also sort of tricky. Like,
So we as pastry chefs, we look at pomegranate and cranberry and those kinds of things as juices that we can pair with raspberries and white chocolate. At least we're not doing strawberries and raspberries
Sure.
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
like April, May, June.
Yeah.
So
Right.
unless you live in California, then you can get a couple more months out of it.
Yeah.
But so pomegranate is pretty norm for pastry chefs around
Yeah.
Thanksgiving time.
Okay.
We're
Okay.
kind of used to it. Um, I did notice, and you guys said in your last podcast, they're giving a lot of respect to Thanksgiving, which I find is super enjoyable
Mm-hmm.
because I hate eating red and green food.
You're not. I don't even know if this happens or not, but I did make the prediction at the beginning of the season that some kind of like gingerbread house or some such nonsense would be constructed. And the second we had the first episode, there was a lot of gingerbread.
There's gingerbread.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. It's like tree. And see, I made the prediction after doing 5 weeks of studying that gingerbread would not show up
Really?
because season 1 or maybe 2 or 3. Chef
Mhm.
Bill Lipscomb,
Mm-hmm.
who is a good friend of mine and lives in Atlanta, and knows me and Cedric both. And I watched the episode with him making the gingerbread house, and I thought to myself, "Wow, Food Network will never do that again." And then, of course, what they do this year, they came out with a gingerbread war.
That's right.
Yeah.
But you hear them say, "We're going to give you 2 days to make it or whatever," and
Yeah.
it's just it's weird.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, they like
it's,
send the bakers home to make
Yeah.
a lot of the pieces.
So the winner of the Halloween one, Megan, is one of my students from gingerbread classes. So I teach gingerbread
Wow.
classes
What?
out at the Grove Park Inn every August. I hold a master class in gingerbread building with students and competitors and people that do the National Gingerbread Championship. And Megan
That's
is one of my
incredible.
past students. I can't totally take credit for all the stuff she does. She just graduated with her degree in biochemistry or bio. I don't know. She's a
Sure.
brainiac. She's
What
awesome.
an underachiever! I was.
And she just won, right? Like
Yeah.
the gingerbread award thing, and then had all this other stuff. And of course, that media and everything just drives like crazy. And then she decided to compete, and she spent 2 weeks and competed in the national that just started this past weekend, and did really well. She showed up really well and did some cool stuff. So
Wow.
Nice.
So
yeah,
That's
there's
awesome.
a lot of gingerbread spices
yeah.
and possibilities, but no gingerbread houses so far. Thank God. It's not exactly. It doesn't lend itself for 2 hours. That's for sure.
Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A gingerbread hotel.
Yes.
So then on the other end of the spectrum,
Okay.
gingerbread being maybe something that you would not want to do on the show. Do you have a favorite memory? Like something, obviously we can't have any spoilers, but is there something either?
I mean, it'd be great to do Christmas cookies, right? Like just like Christmas cookies.
but
Maybe
they have a
that's
whole
what
show
we
for
were
that. So
yeah, maybe that's what we were supposed to do in the first episode, and obviously Jen did. But and it's so weird because you were constantly reminded that it's holiday baking,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm known for 2 things: making chocolates and making bread. And neither one of those things really translate, I guess. Chocolate doesn't translate well to television sometimes because of the cameras and the heat.
Uh-huh.
And
Wow.
bread definitely doesn't translate really well because that's like watching paint dry. This thing called fermentation. I
Sure.
was just talking to Melissa today, and she had a picture on our Facebook page of some bread that she did at home, and it was a 20-hour cold fermentation.
Wow.
Now, let me tell you, waiting 20 hours for a loaf of bread to rise, yeah, it's paint dry.
Yeah.
But I told her I had to lick the screen a couple times and try to get that sour flavor I can't get.
Yeah.
Eventually, if someone can invent that, we'd be in good shape.
That's
There you go.
incredible. That's incredible. Amazing. So, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
Oh, so is there something that do you have a favorite memory, either like behind the camera or like something that from this season that you're like, oh, I'm gonna hang on to that?
Thus far in the season.
Yeah, thus far.
Yeah, thus far. So there's and some stuff in realizing editing and things that aren't there. So um I I throw a lot of dad jokes out in the kitchen. I'm guilty. Um I'm very, very guilty. The Yule log episode. I asked Jesse if he was pining for a Yule log joke because they weren't that popular.
Oh,
Come on.
Oh,
Yes.
Oddly enough, all the
Yes.
competitors just had that response right there. And
Yeah.
then I went about my business, and then I decided, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to make a bird's nest.
That bird's nest needs to be a GIF. That's just you. Just like, I'm just gonna mind my own business and make a bird's nest. It's just
Let's
like,
make a bird's nest.
I wanted your origin story, but I really wanted the bird's nest origin story more. And now I've got it. That's my favorite memory.
Yeah.
he made a joke that crushed, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna saunter over here next thing.
Somebody get the 6-string guitar. I'm making a bird's nest right now.
But then again, I have yet to watch an episode in the normal, I guess, setting. I watch it at like 5:30 in the morning on my phone, on the Network Go app or whatever. So,
right.
Yep.
I think we joked about it that whenever you're done with something, like if I were done, I go, oh God, that was hard. Oh God, it's over. And you're just like, I'm gonna pull some sugar.
Got extra time. I'm trying to do some sugar work.
Let me make some
let
accessory.
me make something. Yeah, I've always been told that your garnish should make sense.
Yeah.
It should be edible. It should harmonize with the colors and everything. And I guess it's just all right. So I know how to do chocolate. I know how to do sugar. I know how to do blown sugar. I know how to do RoboCoupe chocolate and some other stuff. So if I can show it, and I will say, so I've been doing this for a long time. So there's my station's really clean, it's organized, and I seem to always have.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else can I do?
Right.
So I just do it, and it's and if it doesn't work, then it doesn't go on there, and I'm like looking around the room going, eh. So I don't do snowmen and Santa Claus and that kind of stuff. I'm not.
Sure.
I don't do fluffy, cutesy stuff. I usually do stuff that's kind of edgy and neat and maybe on the natural side, but a lot of natural colors too. I don't use fake reds and greens, or should I say? When I say fake reds and greens, I mean like manufactured.
Loud.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the roll cake, that was turmeric, beet powder, and cocoa powder.
Dang.
The colors. I didn't
Top of an
use.
entire Thanksgiving feast.
So I didn't, and that didn't get into editing, but that's fine. I mean, it's just one of those things that any opportunity I have to use natural food colors like turmeric or beet powder or whatever, then do it. So the yellow that was there was turmeric. The orange was a little bit of turmeric and beet powder. The red was beet powder, and then the dark chocolate color was black cocoa powder.
Wow.
And I just mixed it into the paste, and then just kind of played with it and kind of messed with it, and it worked. So, and they did. Lorraine commented about that. She was the little comment you hear at the end. The full sentence was, "I'm amazed at what you bring to the table. This is super awesome. I love how you're doing things your way and bringing things we've never seen here to the show." And then, of course, the rest of her phrase.
Yeah.
And then I think as I walk out the double doors and turn left, I did that whole like imagining a goalpost and then like doing the air guitar kick and then like looking into the air and thinking to myself, I nailed that one. I nailed it.
You certainly did.
So that when you ask about the memory, and oddly enough, that's probably the memory in my head was that particular moment where I walked through and I thought to myself, I just nailed a bird's nest truffles and a roll cake that was round and had small slices of everything you want to eat at the Thanksgiving Day table.
Yeah.
Because that's what working in hotels and stuff. I always remember these old ladies coming up to the table and going, "Can you cut a smaller slice of that cheesecake for me? I just want a little sliver. A little sliver of the pecan pie, and some of that cranberry tart." And I thought to myself, okay, we'll just roll the entire buffet table onto one.
That's awesome.
And so yeah, it works. I'm actually doing the exact same dessert at the James Beard dinner
Cool.
on Thanksgiving Day this Thursday coming up.
Yeah.
So, but it's really small. It's the size of, and Chris, you'll be happy. It's the size of a little tiny little Debbie Swiss roll cake.
I will make a devil
little
dog.
devil dog.
I'm gonna make. You know devil dog. Come on.
I know devil dog.
Devil dog's great.
It's like the chocolate version of a Twinkie, right?
Yes, but just so much better.
He
They're
keeps
just
them in
like
the
this-
freezer.
You
He's
freeze
There's
them?
like this streak of chocolate icing on top.
it's just.
what a dream.
This is great. Okay, so
You're singing his song.
oh
right
my
now.
god,
I get it.
I like running the kitchen. so hearing all these things and just and witnessing this firsthand and being able to speak to you like mid-season, which is just incredible and surreal and weird because we don't know what happens. You do.
Right.
Don't say anything, but
Not really. I tell everybody I don't know what happens.
that's true.
I have no clue.
They-
That's the best way to answer it.
They Men in Black you at the end with the light.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, they tell us we're going to have to show up on December 23rd for the final to see who wins.
Right.
There you go.
But now, so here, the bird's nest, the pulling, we get it. We get it, Geoff. You're amazing. So this brings me to this question, Mr. Geoff, because you are not my pick, not by choice, and I'm not bitter about it at all.
No, not at all, because JT got first pick.
That's true.
Taking it home.
But you must have, and maybe not, from listening to you and seeing what you do, maybe not. Do you have one big career blunder in the kitchen? Is there something that sticks out? Like, have you ever had some kind of epic giant fail where please lay it on us.
Do I get to recover? Because I have one that was a huge fail and I recovered.
You can recover. Yeah, if you recover, it's just something.
So the biggest fail was I decided to stack a wedding cake. I was only 4 miles from the event facility. I had the wedding cake stacked up. It was in the car. I drove to the country club. Now, so I had about an hour and a half before the wedding started, which meant I had about an hour and, well, it wasn't a Catholic wedding, so I had an hour and 45 minutes before the reception. So I had an hour and 45 minutes to redecorate a 3-tier wedding cake with Corneli lace. And if you don't know what Corneli lace, it's where all the little squiggles.
Okay. Oh,
right?
no.
Yeah, it's like
I'm getting hives thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's so much more extreme than I thought it would be. I thought it like slid and you had to readjust. It hit the windshield like a cartoon.
Yeah. So I took one extra lap around and picked up at my shop a blank cake, grabbed the bucket of icing, used multiple 4-letter colorful metaphors, and then I went to the facility. The executive chef was a good friend of mine. He gave me a back table space. And I said, whatever you do, keep the event planner from this back area, at least for the next 20 minutes, while I try to make sense of this.
Jeez.
I was able to scrape the first 2 tiers down, re-ice, and get those decorated. And then the top tier, it looked as close to the original as possible. And the bride and groom came in the building. They were there. And of course, people were grading them. And I had about 10 minutes. And then she came back in the back and she's like, "Where's the damn cake?" And we were just putting it on this little cart with a little cloth and it had all the stuff on it. And the maitre d' person was just rolling it out into the foyer, and everybody breathed, and the executive chef like turns around and just gives you that little like high five, like walking back like Jesse and Cedric.
I thought you were going to say as the maitre d' was bringing it out, that little car drives back out but through the wall and gets in the way again. It's their windshield.
Yeah, that's probably the worst of all of them that I've ever had. I've had some blunders as far as menu items that I've made where it just didn't work or whatever. But that's not that you just know that you just swung and you missed.
Yeah.
Maybe a menu
Yeah.
plan,
This
but
one
as
just had
far
my
as
heart racing.
actual crazy, the
Right.
wedding cake, I call it the wedding cake versus the Plymouth Valiant 1971 Plymouth Valiant. So
Jeez.
since then, I've never ever traveled with a cake stacked.
Yeah.
Lesson learned.
Now you know, just hit the car. It's like a deer.
right.
You don't stop.
Yes,
You just go
yes.
right through
Go
them.
right through it.
They have that wedding cake.
So, all right. So now, I want to ask you.
Okay.
What is the weirdest thing someone has ever asked you or commissioned you to bake?
This is a family thing, right?
Just beat it on the next 2 minutes.
This is like disclaimer here now.
There was body parts involved. That was
yeah.
It was a bachelorette party, and someone asked me to make a really the male anatomy. Female anatomy not so weird. Just put a bikini on it or whatever. But male anatomy was a little awkward.
Yeah, for
That'd be
sure.
a little more awkward if that hit the windshield in a near crash.
You have a lot of explaining to do
Just
for
a flying.
sure.
Yeah. Whoops. So that's probably been the weirdest thing.
Dare I ask what flavor it was?
Oh, now I really want to know that.
I think it was just white cake, and it was literally like just a regular white cake covered in fondant or whatever. But it was the detail my sous chef helped with.
Who wants to eat that? That's my question.
I guess if there's enough Jello shots in the room, eventually you think to yourself, but what man in the room standing there going, "Go ahead and Lorena vomit that thing up."
Hey, if it tastes like a devil dog, I'm taking it down myself.
Oh no.
Well, now we know.
That's probably been the weirdest
Now we
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
That's pretty weird. That's pretty weird. So
I imagine bakers on the show, the other bakers have a lot. I don't do a lot of cakes. I'm not known for them. So, but that always seems to be where you get the weirdest requests.
Yeah.
Is when it comes to cakes, because I think people have watched too much Food Network cake challenges. Where let's make a cake that gushes blood out of its head. Or something. I think one of y'all has experience doing that.
I don't know if you saw my zombie cake.
I did,
You might be a
I
little
did.
starstruck right now.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's impressive. And slow-mo.
Yeah.
Really wanted to get the full effect of how much I destroyed Pete Tidwell's vision.
Pete was
His
like,
original
wow, did
cake.
I do that?
He's so nice that when we were talking to him, he was like, no, it was
Something.
good. Like, Pete can't even
That's funny.
fake it through that sentence.
Yeah,
exactly. He's
So
pausing, going, how do I say this?
Right. He completely insulted.
Okay.
So I would imagine that there are a lot of people like us who have zero baking experience watching these shows at home, right? But who love watching it and love the experience of watching it. And this podcast has given us a great experience of dabbling
With the exception of Chris.
With the exception of Chris thus far. Dabbling in.
Hey, Chris.
What's up,
Chris,
Jeff?
who were your picks this season?
I'm scared. Why should I tell you?
Just have no reaction.
I got Sarah Beantown. And I got
Sarah
Cedric
Beantown.
the Entertainer.
And then our couples pick is Janet.
Yep.
Okay.
America's sweetheart from Canada.
Okay, enough said. Cool, thanks. Appreciate it.
Chris got fourth pick.
Fourth and
He did,
fifth.
fourth and fifth.
Yeah.
But I would say so.
Love my picks, baby.
We have to love our team.
We have nothing to go off.
Who dislikes Janet?
Nobody.
You can't dislike Grandma Bear.
Right.
You cannot dislike Grandma Bear.
No way. She will cut
I mean,
you.
we're in love with everyone. It's
That's
the truth,
true.
So
Yeah.
We do use a muzzle every once in a while, but
A loving
And she's got so much energy that I'm like, no coffee for her.
A muzzle fashioned out of pulled sugar, Geoff.
She's a hoot. She is. She's a hoot. This last episode, she was to the right of me in the kitchen, and of course, there's a little bit of we talk,
Yeah.
but at certain points, you look over and go, "What did you say, Janet? I'm sorry, I had tuned out." And she was kind of laughing at me, and she's like, "What are you doing over there?" And I was like trying to explain it to her. And then I'm like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "I'm playing with butter." She's so, and if Jesse walks in the kitchen, that's it. She's done.
Yeah.
That's
her
No.
Achilles heel.
That
gotta
seems to be the
It's-
general
it's the
note.
Canadian. It's the Canadian connection. She loves it.
I don't think John Henson was getting love like that in Halloween baking. Let's just
No.
put it that way. Okay.
And we get pictures. I get pictures. So my day starts with either a sunset from Janet or a sunrise from Maria every day. On our Facebook little private back page, because and
Or
those
a
are
topless
great.
shirt from Jesse.
on a blue tractor.
Tractor.
That's right.
Yeah.
Happy
man.
holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I was asking with all of the people who watch this show who are maybe scared to try baking for the first time. We certainly were when we started this thing, but do have the interest in potentially diving in. What would you say to somebody who is like, what advice do you have for somebody who's like, I'm going to make my first attempt?
Well, I'll be quite honest. The first thing I tell people, find a technical college in your area. They're going to have hobby classes where you can just, now here's the fun thing. I do what's called date nights. So I have 7 or 8 tables in my classroom, and we'll do like holiday cookies. It's a 3-hour class, and pretty much everybody knows word of mouth, I think, now at the school. But couples come in, husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend.
Yeah.
2 ladies that are just trying to like lose their husbands for the evening. I've had two dads come in for barbecue class because they were like, we got to be out of the house. So find your local technical college. They probably have a little hobby class for you. You're going to spend about $69. You're going to learn something, but more importantly, you're going to take away something that you learn. I look at baking as a progression. So I tell everybody, play with basic yeast bread first. Basic. We're not talking Melissa's level because Melissa does some like seriously crazy bread. Just making simple yeast rolls, soft yeast rolls, and then move to quick breads, biscuits and muffins and maybe banana bread, and then move to cookies and brownies, and then move from there to cakes. And then, and when I'm not saying decorate cakes, I mean like bake a pound cake.
Yeah.
Your basic stuff. So, and if you don't want to, or you don't have access to a community college, or you don't want to go that route, you can go out and buy what we call a curriculum style book for baking. You are going to have a scale. None of those books use cups because Chris's cup and Kim's cup are 2, and if you put them on a gram scale, they weigh different.
What?
It just is what it is. I mean, 1 cup of flour because his hand pressure and your hand pressure are going to be different. So everything's in grams. Here's the other thing.
But
if
you guys don't use
everything,
them. You guys don't use them in the show.
Yeah, we have gram scales.
Really?
No, we're there.
Oh, we just never see them. That's why.
But I mean, we weigh things off. There are some spots where you'll see a gram scale or you'll see a measuring cup. I mean, it's legit. Janet and some of the other home bakers use cup measuring cups. In my head, I have got probably, which is why my wife jokes all the time that I can't remember anniversary dates, birth dates. But I could tell you the ratios for cake, cookies, brownies, different kinds of focaccia bread, pizza dough. I have all those in my head in percentages. So if I tell myself it's 120% this recipe, and then I'm going to do this, this, and this, and I know my numbers, then all I have to do is go to a gram scale with a piece of paper, and I can say my final result is I'm going to make this much pomegranate curd. okay, so I need this many eggs, this much sugar, and this much pomegranate juice as my lemon juice replacement, and then so that's how it works. Like you start to do the
Wow.
math. You got to
Yeah.
figure it out. I mean, there's no recipes laying around.
Right.
Yeah.
You just have
Right.
to know what works for you, I think, as well. And you were right when you said that first episode, you're feeling the space out. You've never been in the kitchen before. I turned the corner and I was like, okay, so where is everything?
Right.
And then while I'm doing it, I'm moving all my utensils up here and I'm moving my pan here. And I really don't, you see a lot of the bakers run to the other side of the kitchen to use the big ovens. I use the one right on my station. So I can see it, smell it, taste it, because I don't use timers usually.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow.
So it's baking with intuition.
Can you eye anything? I mean, I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
Maybe it's horrible to do. I mean, since
No, I
everything's
mean, there's
just-
certain things you just know. Like
Right.
if I'm cooking a custard on the stovetop, I don't, the sugar, when I pulled the sugar, I did not stick a thermometer in to check and see if it was 302.
Mm.
I just knew that it was, by looking at the bubbles, it was the right temp.
Right.
Pour it down, spread it out, color 2 pieces, start pulling the ribbon once it stops slugging and slacking. And then, so you just, I guess you just do it. I mean, after this many years of doing it,
Yeah.
you just,
Yeah.
you know, what else can you do right now? You know, that kind of thing. So, my station is clean. I should make something else.
Yeah.
Or the infamous stay busy. Okay, I'll stay busy.
Yeah.
I love it.
So
I love it.
I've gotten that nudge a couple times.
As you're
Stay busy.
sleeping in your hammock, they're like, dude, that you fashioned out of sugar again.
Yeah.
Stay busy. But that has to do with, I think, the homework and the planning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh my
Guys, I don't know
gosh.
about you. I'm impressed by Jeff.
Yeah.
I don't know
me
about you.
too.
I don't know about you, but I'm
No.
furious with JT. That's how I feel right now.
I got you, JT.
That's my team. That's my
All
team.
right.
Yeah.
So, guys, should we move on to the lightning round?
Lightning.
Do
Oh,
it.
you shall.
Lightning
Jeff,
round.
are you
Oh, this
ready?
is fun.
All right.
This will be fun.
Yep.
All right.
There is absolutely 0 stakes, but we're going to act like the stakes are very high.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll hit you with
Yeah.
some fast questions.
Okay.
Just answer as quickly as you can. And
Otherwise, nothing will happen.
yeah, otherwise nothing.
2 plus 2 is 4.
2 plus 2 is 4. Okay.
Got it.
Yeah.
Chris, you want to count us down?
Yeah. Give us a countdown.
First of all, I'm going to start with cue music. There we go. 3, 2, 1, coming at you.
All right. Fondant, or fondant?
Rolled, poured, or ugh.
Excellent.
Perfect.
That was all 3.
Yes. Done.
Cake or cookie?
Cookie.
Sweet or savory?
Ooh, savory.
Ooh. My 3 a.m. guilty pleasure snack is.
Peanut butter on a spoon.
Yes. Favorite baking utensil?
Spoon. Seriously, it's a spoon. I could do anything with a spoon. I could even ice a cake with the damn thing.
T-shirt.
There you go. Okay, who is your celebrity baker crush?
Wow. I don't know if Michael Lascanis counts.
It could be a talent crush.
Yeah, Michael Lascanis. He's up in Manhattan. He used to be at Le Bernardin.
Yeah.
And he was a pay chef there, and now he works at Ice. He just, wow, amazing. Yeah, super. Yeah, he just studies everything the way he looks at it. I love it.
I love it.
Love it.
Okay. White chocolate, tool of the trade or abomination?
White lie.
It's not real chocolate.
It's not real chocolate. Yeah, it's a lie.
I like
It
it.
is a lie. The white lie.
Yeah, okay. I love it. See, Jeff, even with our lightning round, he's like, okay, you asked me this question. I'm not going to answer it.
I'm not going to answer it that way.
I'm not making a crazy cake.
What is that? Pull a Jeff? I've already heard that phrase. I've already heard that phrase from my students. Pull a Jeff. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Cream cheese or buttercream?
Cream cheese.
Yes.
Okay, we just talked about this in our last podcast. Donuts, cake or yeast?
I'm gonna go with Dwight on this one. Cake donuts are nothing but just like cupcakes or fake. I don't
Yes.
they need to be yeasted. I think yeasted is like the way to go.
Sorry, Kim, we're in it together.
More for us.
I
can't-
feel so
I can't
powerful
do-
right now. Yes.
But I will say this. So another one of my guilty pleasures. Have you ever seen the Hostess little package of the powdered donuts?
Oh,
the
yes.
chocolate ice ones. Now they came out with a 6-pack of the coconut.
Oh, I
Coated
know what
ones.
you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about? So those are
for
baked.
Sure. Mhm.
Those are baked.
Mhm.
I can also say that 6 go down in less than 30 seconds.
I can tell you, I had
So-
a bad Hostess coconut donut habit as a kid. That is a true
It's good.
story.
It's because it's toasted coconut.
They
It's
were
great
so
flavor.
good.
I did
You
not
get stuck
know
in your
that about
teeth.
you.
Yeah.
A lot of truth.
But those are baked.
They are
shared tonight.
Yeah. Kim's like, oh my God, I don't even know you anymore.
I didn't know he liked coconut.
We're going
This
to
is-
therapy.
Like I've
after
been
this.
sleeping with a stranger.
Yeah, of course it's happening. Okay. All right. Vegetables are for.
Vegetables are for eating?
Yeah.
I mean, I like them.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Good.
What
His kids are watching.
What do you think is the next pastry trend?
Not Kranza cake.
That's right.
I really think, I always look at, we've got a lot of new chocolates coming out. There's lots of manufacturers that are doing all these different kinds of things with chocolates, but the whole thing is, I'm really hoping, so I'll just say it because I hope that it happens. Seasonal sustainability, using things because it makes sense and not just using it because, oh, wouldn't it be cool?
Right.
Right.
Yes.
I feel like there's a lot of people that don't realize that red food dye, it causes ADHD and some other things. Certain things your body's not meant to break down. Why is it that the US has an issue with gluten intolerance, yet Europe doesn't?
Mm.
I think we just, going back to seasonal and grandma made it this way, we can still make it look pretty without all of the metallic gold dust, fake green, red, snowflake, this, that, and the other. So I really feel like that's been my biggest push at the school. So if it isn't a trend, I'm going to try my best to at least make it a trend in my area, which is you don't buy strawberries in December unless you live in California or Florida, because you can get them there. I buy strawberries where I am in South Carolina during May and June. And then I get what's called winter berries in November for about 2 weeks. And I look forward to that. I get sweet potatoes at certain times, pumpkins at certain times. If we can all learn to use products in seasonality, I think we'll get back to eating better foods and feeling healthier, which I know goes back to that vegetable thing. But I know it's weird to hear it on a holiday baking thing. But
No,
it's
Jen
true.
and I are
Like,
going to go to our fridge and go, our kids are going to be like,
our kids are going to
that's
be
why
like,
they
what?
walk in circles.
Yeah. What? It's red. No. I do a thing called black velvet where I use black cocoa powder because let's face it, what do you like? Anybody, the 4 of you, who likes red velvet cake?
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
sure, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look
So
at this
what do you-
body. What do you think?
Chris, what do you really like about red velvet cake?
I love that cream cheese frosting.
See? So why do you like red velvet cake?
Yeah.
I like cream cheese. I'm going to go to bed
Exactly.
now.
I like cream cheese. So why not do black velvet?
Yeah.
So black velvet is black cocoa powder, which is natural. So you can still make the exact same cake without putting all that red food dye in it, and it works.
So last lightning round.
Lightning
round.
round.
Yeah.
He gives
That's
us
like the longest
gives
lightning
us-
round
He
Hey,
gives
ever.
us the most
that's right,
profound
but you know what?
answer
There's-
we've ever heard to any question.
Yeah, and there's nothing more Jeff than having our lightning round be like, I'm not doing a lightning round. I'm taking a moment to talk about what I really talk about.
I'm
Right.
Jeffing the hell out of this lightning round, okay?
We
love
learned so much already. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
All right,
God.
so it's the last question of the lightning round. Baking
All right.
makes me feel.
Baking makes me feel, wow. I mean, there's so many different feelings. I have fun. I'm like a kid. I truly am it makes me feel young to bake things. But more importantly, when people eat it and I get to see their looks on their face, that's what really makes me feel good, because
So sweet.
you have the last chance in a restaurant. Like they served a salad at dinner, entree, whatever, soup.
Oh, sure.
Dessert goes out, you get ta-da! You're last. I get last word.
Nice. I love that.
That's
You
so
can.
sweet.
It can be the worst thing in the world, and the dessert is great. Then they leave with a good experience. So,
There you go.
That's
Yeah.
the
That's
sweetest.
right.
Oh.
Damn, Geoff.
That's awesome. Is there anything you want to? We love to give a little bit of time at the end. Anything you want to plug or promote? This is your time. What would you have? Anything you want to push out?
If you're looking to go to culinary school, look at your local technical college. Check your local technical college out and see if it's something that works for you. Go on a tour, meet the chefs. Do not. You don't have to go traveling very far.
Right. Man.
Great advice.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I think that's why Chris
My
didn't go
mind
to
is
school at all,
blown.
right?
I'm telling you, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, tonight's episode is coming out. We've got a preheat that includes taking beloved holiday appetizers to a new level using baked brie and jam mini pies. And then a main heat using prepared ingredients to make crowd-pleasing desserts without giving too much away. What can we expect from tonight's episode?
Some cheesy puns
Nice.
that are quick and easy.
This is dropped.
Mic drop. I'm out.
I guess the last thing we do, we always close every episode, as you know, by all together saying as quickly as possible for Kim's brain. We all say together, "Bake it till you bake it." So if you will join us in saying that to close out the episode.
1, 2, 3, coming at ya.
Fake it till you
bake
it.
That was